Hello, Miss Pat. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Thank you for coming to the session. Before we get started, I just want to let you know or make sure it's okay to record today. Some people like to view the recordings afterwards, so if you would like to do that, you can. And then also you can review any notes that I may take throughout this session. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with
Okay, and then also there will be a form for confidentiality
that.
that just basically states that whatever we go through and talk about during the session remains in the session, so nothing will be said outside of the session. And also, if you feel at any time that you want to stop the session or you feel uncomfortable, then you can let me know. Okay?
Okay.
So I just need you to sign this form stating again that it's okay to record today and that you can review any notes that are taken, and you also can listen to the recording afterwards. And then also the confidentiality one is on the back side of it. Just basically states that everything that is said today will remain in the session. And I do take confidentiality very seriously. So anything that is said will not go outside the session. Okay? So this is a confidentiality form. If you could just sign that for me.
Okay.
And then on the back is the recording, just of you saying that it's okay to record today.
So I just need to sign here.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Oh.
So before we get started, I just kind of want to get to know you a little bit before we dive into the session. That's how I typically like to do my counseling sessions. So if you could tell me just a little bit about yourself and maybe your family or anything else you would like to share.
Okay, my name is, you can call me Miss Pat,
Pat.
and I'm married. I have two daughters, and we have a dog that is, might as well say part of the family because my daughters love him, so he's like another child for us. Um, I'm from Georgia, and I've been living here in North Carolina for since 1988. I moved to North Carolina because my husband was coming here after getting out of the army to finish his engineering degree here at a local college here in Greensboro. So we moved here back in 1988. I really didn't want to move here at the time because my husband was stationed overseas, and we had been away from our family for a very long time, a long ways away from our family, a long time. So um, I wasn't ready to come here, but I did, and we're still here. We decided to stay here. We liked the city okay, so we ended up staying here. My husband got a job here. I started a career here, so home, North Carolina now is my home. All of our family resides in Georgia, and from time to time they come here. Very rarely though, and then we sometimes go home. I used to go home a lot more, but I don't. I may go home now maybe once a year or so. Um, I work here in Greensboro at a health system, and I am a coordinator, and I work in health careers. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's a lot. You said a lot of information. So where are you currently living?
I live here in Greensboro, North Carolina,
Okay.
out in Pleasant Garden community, and we've been living here in this area since 1991, actually. And I hope to be moving soon. My house is on the market, and I hope that it sells soon so that we can move. We want to move closer to town and in a community, more in a subdivision. We live in a subdivision now, but is more rural. So I'm looking for more city like subdivisions that's more closer to maybe the area grocery stores and shopping.
Okay. Well, now that I feel like I've gotten to know you, before I start, I just want to let you know that I, as your counselor, we're going to work together as a team
Okay.
to meet your goals. So, what brings you in today?
Well, I have a lot of things going on as far as um, kind of moving forward and putting some things behind. I thought I had put them behind, but um, really sometimes they keep surfacing up, especially if other events happen that make me think about them, or if I think about visiting home. These events and dealing with my dad and the loss of my dad and the lack of my dad being around in my life um, create something that I I thought I put behind, but sometimes I still get feelings about them.
Okay. Now, you said you have a difficulty putting things behind. Could you talk a little bit more about that? What you mean by that?
Well, it's a long story. It's a very long story. I didn't grow up with my dad in my family. My mom had 5 kids. Um, my mother married my sibling's father, and she didn't marry my father. So I'm the second oldest, and so my dad didn't come into my life until I was about age 18. Um, and at that time, I was uh, in love with my high school sweetheart. So I got married, and I decided to um, go with my husband overseas because he was in the United States Army. So I really didn't get to know my father until at that point. He was never, he was, I knew of my father. I occasionally talked to him, but I didn't have a real relationship with him. At times, I felt like he disowned me. Um, he was married to another woman, and she knew about me being my dad's daughter. However, she didn't kind of accept me, and we never had a relationship um, on that level. She didn't mistreat me when I saw her because actually she was a member of the same church that I grew up in, and so weekly I would see her and occasionally see my dad. But it was almost like out of mind, out of sight, even though that she knew that I was um, her husband's, that was my dad. So my dad never really acknowledged me in front of her or acknowledged me in front of his family. Um, so it was one of those things that we knew about it, but nobody really talked about it. He never really brought it up unless he was had been drinking or and then he would bring it up to his wife. So it's so much dynamics with it because I feel like had he handled it differently, she may have been more accepting towards me. But you know, I got married at 18, and I did decide to go on. My dad was not a part of my um, wedding. He wasn't a part of any of that, accepting my husband. So that really was disappointing, very disappointing to me. It wasn't that we didn't allow him to be; it was just that he didn't show any ownership and act like he was interested. However, though, his mother knew that I was his daughter. She knew that, and I look a lot like my dad, so I don't, everybody pretty much, it was a given that I was his daughter. And so they pretty much accepted me into the family more so than he did. So his mother um, was a part of my wedding, and one of his aunt attended the wedding. I found out that my dad was my father actually when I was 11 years old. I was about 11 years old. And unfortunately, another one of my sibling on my dad's side um, was involved in a tragic in Miami, Florida, and he died. Um, and so, of course, um, his mother wanted me to know about losing him, although I really didn't ever knew him as a brother or a sibling, so to speak. I knew of him of someone who was kind in the community or in our neighborhood that would come through our neighborhood sometime and play with me, and always, said hello and was very, very kind to me. But I really didn't know him at that time as a brother. It was one of those other um, people in our neighborhood that would come to our neighborhood that I would just thought that played with me. So I did learn more about. So after he passed away, it really came out in the family that I was my daughter's. I mean, I was his daughter. More people found out about it, and more people accepted it. So, years and time went by, and I had my first child at the age of at the age of 25, and some time had gone by, and so I took the initiative to write my dad's wife uh, and to tell her that unfortunately I was not responsible. I mean, I was not responsible for what has taken place, and I was an adult now, and that I wanted her to see me in a different set of lenses, and that I was going to be giving birth to my very own daughter, which was going to be my dad's granddaughter, and I wanted to teach her who her grandfather was, and I wanted her to be accepting of that, or I asked her to be very accepting of that. And initially, she was not, or I don't know whether she was not, or she just wasn't ready to deal with it. So some time went on, and she never really dealt with it. However, um, she did inquire from my mother for my address, and my mom shared that with her. And she told my mom she was going to send me a letter, um, but I never got the letter. And then some more time went on, and she unfortunately became very gravely ill. And so we never really had a conversation about it. I I want to believe that her heart was in the right place. However, um, we just really didn't make enough contact to get into that. I did, had some casual talks with her that was very short, but never, we were never able to, in the times that our paths crossed, to talk about that. And and unfortunately, she never got well. She ended up passing away. And so she passed away, and then, of course, it was just misfortunate. My dad and his wife did have a adopted child, and so that was the child that my dad adored. That that was a child that they raised together, and so I never really experienced the love that of a father from him, like the adopted child had. So over the years, and time went by, but I've always had a problem just dealing with the like of neglect that he gave me, and how um, I was not, I guess, in the picture unless he was drinking. And then if I was drinking, he let everybody knew that he had a daughter, and how beautiful, or he thought his daughter was, and this, that, and the other. So even as time passed away, I still stayed in contact with his parents and some other family members who, never um, rejected me into the family. They actually welcomed me into the family, although I was uncomfortable, being and going around sometime, especially while the wife was still living. Now, when she passed away, um, I did try to go around them a little bit more, and he accepted it, or was a little bit freer to talk about it. And I really think that's because his wife did pass away. So,
So let's just pause right here because you said a lot. So I just want to make sure I have everything down pat. So
mhm,
I'm just gonna kind of recap everything that you've kind of said just to make sure I'm on the right track.
mhm,
So it sounds like I'm hearing some disconnect within your family,
mhm,
and it sounds like you are here, and the problem, I would say, issue, is that you had to deal with the neglect from your dad
mhm,
and some of his family, mainly his wife,
mhm.
and you're here to get help. So the first thing I would like to ask you is, well, first, is that correct? Is that about correct of why you're here?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, the scars were not pretty. The scars, even though they were not physical scars, you know, emotionally, I still deal with it.
Okay. And that's definitely understandable.
Mhm.
Especially, and then your dad died also. So on top of
Mhm.
everything that you had to deal with in your childhood, the death, that made it, that didn't make it any better. So then now you're dealing with the death. So all this kind of, build it up. But death is something that takes time. It's not, gonna.
Well, the other part of that about my about the death of his wife is my dad got remarried, and I didn't really go all into that, but my dad got remarried because it was someone he thought that resurfaced and came back into his life, and he was lonely after the loss of his wife. He needed companionship, He never discussed this with me. This is what I'm hearing after the fact from him. But it's all in how that happened. Just when I thought, and I wasn't not in no way glad that his wife died, but after she died, when I thought that I was going to have my dad in my life, shortly later someone else came into his life, and we never really still developed what I call a father-daughter relationship.
Right. So once his first wife died, you still weren't able to connect with him and get that relationship that you were longing because shortly after he remarried without letting you know. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, without letting me know, I actually found out from another family member
How
that
did that make you feel when you found out without your dad telling you, just when you thought you were going to get that relationship, and then you're hearing that he just remarried? Could you tell me a little bit about what you were thinking at the time that
hmm
you heard?
Well, I was very, very shocked and hurt. And even though my dad and wasn't very, very close, I thought that we were making some strides to build our relationship that at least, um, you know, I had a daughter by then, and we had more conversation, and I thought that we were on the road to becoming a family and be a relationship. I thought I had made enough strides for him to at least share with me that you know another woman was in his life, and that he loved her enough to get married. And I just thought that after he didn't tell me, I thought that was very disrespectful.
So you felt disrespected.
I felt disrespectful.
Respected.
I mean, disrespected. Yes, absolutely. And I kind of felt like I was let down. Um, I felt sad. Um, I had a lot, and still do. I think still have some of that going on. Um, that I never got to really have that good relationship with him. And I even told him before, if you're happy, I'm happy. So I didn't understand, because I made it very easy for him to share anything like that with
Right.
me. So yeah, I really did feel let down,
Okay.
disrespected.
So let's back up a little bit. Now it seems like your childhood was spent mostly with your mother instead of your father. So could you tell me a little bit about your childhood and growing up with your mom, and if your mom raised you, and then kind of your childhood with your other siblings on the other side?
Well, I didn't grow up in the household with my mom.
Okay.
I My mom had five children. Um, sh- I have four siblings. She had five kids. I was one of the five, so I had four siblings. And my mother married my three siblings' um, father, and so my oldest brother, I'm the second oldest. We live with our grandmothers. My older brother lived with his paternal grandmother, and I live with my maternal grandmother, which is my mother's mother.
Okay.
And they raised us, and we lived in two different houses. However, they were like in the same neighborhood, and we lived about I would say two houses down from each other. Both grandmothers did. So my older brother and I, we got to see each other a little bit more than I saw my mom and my other siblings, and my stepfather. And I did know my stepfather a little bit better than I knew my dad.
How
Because
was
I would visit them sometimes, and they would come over to see us. So I had I had somewhat a relationship with my mother. I just didn't live in the household with her. And frankly, I think I didn't because, she really just didn't have enough space and everything for all of us. And both of our grandmothers lived alone, and so we just lived with them. And occasionally, they would had to stay with us some too. So, but no, my grandmother really raised me.
Well, how was it living with your grandmother? How was that relationship with your grandmother?
That was a very, very good relationship. Of course, my grandmother was old school, and so um, I really didn't have much of a child kid life. A lot of playing and um, watching TV. Of course, not a whole lot of that. Some of it, maybe I might get to watch a few favorite shows during the week, but not like Saturday morning cartoons and all of that because my grandmother was that's all she did was work. She had very strong work ethics, and she taught those same ethics to me at a very early age. At the age of 8, I actually was going to work, and I was very matured, and I learned a lot, and she trusted me to even take care of a lot of her business. Um, my grandmother was a favorite cook at a restaurant called Tamachichi in Georgia. She was very well known by the whole community to be a good cook. And even as her health failed, I would go to work with her, and she would teach me a whole lot about the kitchen and cooking and cleaning. And when her health really failed, um, I was able to, help at the restaurant. And when I became, of age where I could be in the restaurant, um, I was able to do so. And uh, some of the regular customers that came to the restaurant actually asked for her granddaughter if my grandmother wasn't there to prepare their food.
Wow.
So my grandmother was a Christian lady. She loved God. She loved people. She loved helping people, and she really did instill a lot of good things in me.
Yeah, it sounds like she's instilled great qualities in you. Now, you
Mhm.
said you had more of a stronger relationship with your grandmother than
Mhm.
you did your mother. So, can
Mhm.
you tell me a little bit about how your relationship was with your mother?
Well, my relationship with my mom, I think my mom, and I can say this now, but when I was younger, I didn't know why she really had me living with my grandmother and my brother living with my great grandmother. I really didn't know why that was. I sensed it was because um, she didn't marry our fathers, and that the the, the man that she married, the other siblings' father, she wanted to be with them, and that's what it felt like, kind of growing up. Although we had love for my grandmothers, and she never told us she didn't love us. It almost feel like it was them and it was us. And sometimes we could go with them, and sometimes we can't. And everything we needed, my grandmother always um, um, got it for us. And I had an aunt and uncle that helped out as well, that also lived next door to us. And so it was all like it was like my mom never worried about me and my older brother. She just worried about the other three siblings. Sometimes we could go over their house for the weekend, um, but she never worried about us. And if we told her we needed certain things, she just was tell us to tell our grandmother. So I know, I never thought that my mom didn't love me. I just thought that it was them and it was us, and that kind of that's the way it was supposed to be. Um, looking back today, I know that it could have been because my mama couldn't afford to take care of all five kids. We all of us about I would say maybe 14 to 16 months apart,
Wow.
and it was five of us. So it was a lot for her. So, but thinking about it, I do remember having moments where it really was disappointing, really hurtful that she didn't spend more time maybe explaining why we were at our grandmother's, you know, versus just thinking that's where we're supposed to be.
So it sounds like from both sides, your mom and your dad, during your childhood, it seems like you kind of just left out. Not, I wouldn't say alone, but where there were some questions that were still left unanswered. And you said that at age 11 is when you met your dad. Is that correct?
Well, that's when it came out or was revealed to
Could you talk
me.
a little bit about at age 11, you know, it being revealed that okay, this is your dad? What were your thoughts or your feelings? Were you, did you still have some questioning, or did the questions get answered when you met him? Or could you just tell me a little bit about you realizing and meeting your dad?
Well, you know, the reason kind of, I don't really think I would have met my dad yet had it not been for my dad, a son passing away. My dad had a son for another woman, and he ended up passing away, as I mentioned earlier. Um, and because of that, a lot of family and everyone knew that he had another child in the family, and that happened to be me. So that kind of came out. So then that it was a lot of discussion around it. So my mom did share with me, and she took me to um, my brother, which at the time I didn't know him as a brother. I just knew him as a neighborhood friend who came around, to play with me. And really, to this day, I don't know if he knew that. I believe he knew I was his sister, but he never really said anything to me.
So when you met your dad, did y'all have what? Tell me a little bit about what was going on when you met him. Was it at the funeral that you met him, or was it after the funeral? Tell me a little bit about um, that story of meeting, and having that conversation with your dad.
Well, really, I never really had a conversation with him. I think what happened was my dad was forced kind of by his mother to just accept me and get to know me more. My dad never really came to me and said, "I'm your father." It was just like my mom knew it was my father, the family knew it was my father. So that was just basically it. Um, and it was after my dad's wife passed away that my dad and I just started talking. Um, and I think my dad wanted to, but he didn't know how to because he had rejected me so long. And then I was now of age to be able to really say to him, "Dad, you never loved me, or you never, was there for me."
You talked about a little bit about your dad and his health issues. So we're fast forwarding the story a little bit.
Hmm.
So do you feel like it was difficult when your dad was, going through his health issues and then, in the dying stage? Do you think it was difficult to care for him and to see about him because of the neglect from your childhood? How did you take on that role of being a daughter and caring for him during, his period of dying? How did you deal with that? Can you talk a little bit about if you were able to go and see him because he lived in Georgia.
Mhm.
So how did it feel to see him and he see him in the hospital even though at an early age he neglected you. So at this point you are taking care of him in a sense. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I think because my grandmother taught me good Christian values that I never really hated him. Even though I didn't really get to know him, I knew that I was supposed to at least, love people and be nice to people and treat people like I wanted to be treated. So I never had any real bad feelings towards him as far as I just hated. I didn't like it that he treated the other son, say, better than he treated me, or he did a lot for him and he never did really anything for me. But because I was, I got married and then I had a child of my own. I think I just wanted it, wanted to just let it go and just accept it for what it was and try to move on. Um, and so I did go out of my way more to try to build a relationship uh, with my father, and I actually had told my dad. I approached my dad and told him that I couldn't change what had happened, and that I know he wasn't there for me, but if I was willing to put those things behind, which sometimes you think you can put things behind, but you don't really put them behind. Some things happen, events takes place, or things, thoughts, I don't know, just come up, and you still feel a certain way. But I did make an attempt, and I think I did in my heart really did forgive him for just simply not being there for me. Um, but what was disappointing to me was when I did approach my father and told him that I forgive him for not being there for me. And let's just start where we were. My dad didn't apologize to me. He didn't say, um, please forgive me for not being there. And I think at the time I was letting it go because I thought that would free him to let it go, and he really didn't. So I just I didn't want to say I can't believe you didn't say um, forgive me. But he didn't. And so some time went on, and I had to say that to him again. Like, Dad, your granddaughter deserves to know who you are. We're family. I really don't want to raise my daughter the way I was raised. I want you in her life. And so I was always the person that was giving, even though he, didn't really give back. He didn't have a lot of words. And, I had family members like his mother. They kept telling me, he don't really know what to say. And I would say, but he does. He's a grown man. He has to know what to say. He had, he must have known what that could have done to, a child. But I kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And then, when my dad brought another woman on the scene, when I thought that I was gonna probably get close to him, another person came. So all of his energy and love and everything still went into a relationship with someone else and not me. And so that's when I grew wary, and I grew weary about it, and I didn't really worry about it a lot. I felt like the lady that he married was kind of just marrying him, kind of to get close to him because she didn't want him to get close to me. Um, so then we had a whole new set of struggles, so to speak, come in the picture. Um, she never really, she knew I was um, her husband's daughter, but she never really accepted me as a daughter. Um, she just accepted me as another individual. So here is another person that's in the family and didn't accept it. So it was almost like it was a cycle of things continues going on. However, my dad, he started getting sick. He had some health issues that wasn't very good, and his health started to fail very, very quickly. And I guess it would have been easy for me to just, um, just say, well, you wasn't there for me. I don't want to be there for you. But I still say, I guess based on the values my grandmother taught me, that I wasn't, I just didn't have the heart to turn away from him. Although his wife didn't want me to be a part of his life, didn't want me to show love for my father, she didn't want that. They were married. I would say a few years before my dad took ill, and I kind of think that I'm dealing with the latter part of it after the second marriage more now because um, my father did pass away. And just when I thought that he was going to be able to have a good relationship with me and my children, he got involved with this other woman. She pretty much, took him away from us again. And she never just really encouraged the relationship. My dad didn't disown me at that point. He knew that I was his daughter. He had come to grips with that. We had, more conversation, more phone calls. But I could tell my dad and his wife that I was not a good topic for them. In other words, I could tell that he didn't feel comfortable uh, when I was around him and his wife. My dad never was a man that showed a lot of affection, but he would show more and felt more comfortable talking to me when he was alone versus when he was with his wife. So, all of these things, these feelings, never really went away because that rejection was always there. Um, my dad got sick, and I did support my father. Although I lived in North Carolina, I went to see about him several times. My dad knew that I was a strong woman. He knew I had a strong faith, and he knew that I loved him. So, I just decided at the time to um, just no matter what, he's my dad. He's all the dad I know about. I'm just gonna have to love him, and whether he loves me back or whether he shows affection, that I would just love him, and I will let him know that. I will teach my children to love him, and so that's what I did. And although it seemed like a lot of times that I would be trying and giving, and it didn't seem like he was giving, but I just kept on doing it. But now that my dad is not here and it just ended, I feel very sad that I didn't get an opportunity to really connect with him as a daughter. I never got to be his girl like most girls, like my friends, had their father, and it's really sad. I think I I I guess my way of coping with it is to make sure I have had my daughters close to their father. I've always encouraged my daughters to have a good relationship with their father. So because of what I didn't have, at least I'm able to encourage my husband to be that for his daughters. And so, however, now that my dad is deceased, and his second wife treated me very, very bad after he expired, and I mean, she called me um, the day he expired and told me I needed to get there, and literally couldn't get from North Carolina to Georgia because he expired less than 2 hours after I was contacted. I didn't know my dad was in hospice, and it wasn't because I didn't periodically check on my dad. It's just because after my dad health started failing, um, because she had turned so many people in our family away, we didn't have open communication. And my dad ended up expiring, and I did go, back home to the funeral and everything, and to the house. But at all times, I've always felt like I was outcast or I wasn't fully accepted, even though his close family, like his siblings, knew that I was his daughter. It's just that she never really accepted it. So this is like the second mom that really didn't accept me. So um,
Well, first, I want to pause and commend you for, still checking on your dad, even with the illness and even with the neglect that you had in the childhood. I want to commend you for taking the qualities that were instilled in you from your grandmother
mhm,
and still caring for your dad, not hating him. I mean, neglect is serious, and it's great that you were still able to love on your dad, just in spite of everything that took place in your childhood. So I definitely want to commend you on that.
mhm.
You said that you married your high school sweetheart. So how do you feel like how do you feel like he impacted your life during that time of dealing with that you said 18 you all
Mhm.
got married. So how do
Mhm.
you feel like when he came in the picture, how did that change for more of a positive?
Well, I think it was a positive because at the time I was young, and it took me out of that whole environment. Not only did it took me out of the community, the state, it took me out of the country. Because with my husband being a young soldier in the army, we moved to Germany, and that was one reason why we got married as early as we did, because after he came out of college, he didn't have money to pay for college, but he wanted a future, and so it was almost like, do you marry me? Do you love me enough to marry me now? And I'm gonna go in the army, and I want you with me, and we'll spend our life together. So I think it helped alleviate some of the pain at the time that I was able to move on. However, the scars are still there. I still think about it, especially now that I didn't get the relationship that I so longed for with my father. I still, and now that I can't, I cannot get that now. Um, it's still difficult, even though that was it was positive for me to be taken out of the element, because the whole time I was gone. I think I came back to the States 14 months after being away, and I maybe saw him once. And I was, we were in the States for about 30 days, and I maybe saw my dad once. Um, I reached out to him several times while I was overseas, but he never really reached out to me or called me. So it was always like I was doing all the giving all the time.
Okay. So, like, so he said that he kind of took you away from the environment. So sometimes change is good. So I'm glad that he was able to, take you out of the environment and let you see a new light, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
So we're about to wrap up this session. But you talked about, I just want to talk about one more thing. You talked about how you have tried to allow your girls, your daughters, to have their relationship with their father. Could you just talk a little bit before we close out and how that has kind of helped you? Have you allowed your daughters to have that relationship with their father and how that has turned out?
Well, that's very good, very very good. I guess for me, it lets me see that men do love their daughters. They do, or whether it's a son or a daughter. I've been able to see that in our family as well as other families that it doesn't always happen that way, and that there are healthy families. And so, by me seeing our family being healthy and really, making sure my husband spend time with my daughters, it's really been a blessing to me. And but at the same time, sometimes it reminds me of possibly, what I missed out on, what I could have had from my own father. But I'm just I'm so grateful that God gave me a husband that loved me and my daughters. And I would say that is a form, could be some healing to me, even though I still, think about it, what happened with me and my dad. That has been some, source of healing to me.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to share just a brief story on me. When I had lost a loved one, I found it hard, of course, as anyone when they lose a loved one. It's going to be hard. But like I said previously in the session, that it takes time. It's not gonna, go away. And everything that we've gone through in our life isn't going to just magically go away. It takes time, and it is a
Mhm.
process. And it's okay to, grieve. Grieving is important and it's needed at times. And so through that process of me losing someone, I journaled.
Mhm.
And so I just journaled, whenever I, started to have those memories come up or even just wanted to talk to that person when, I
Mhm.
couldn't. I journaled, writing to that person.
Mhm.
So I want to encourage you, we're getting ready to wrap up the session, but I want to encourage you. I'm not sure if that's something that you've tried to do or you would like to do, but just journal some things that you would have liked to, tell your dad, some things that are going on in your life. I don't know if you have an upcoming event. Just share that with your dad on a pencil and pad, and that can just kind of rekindle the relationship with your dad, even though he has passed. But that's a good way to still stay connected with your dad in some way, and you can, have that as a keepsake. Is that something that you would be interested in doing, starting after our session?
Yeah, I think so.
And it doesn't have to be anything, drawn out or anything. Just
Mhm.
just simple as saying hello, I miss you, or saying
Mhm.
hello. This is what I did today, or just something as simple as that. You just start, you can start small and then you can, make it into
Mhm.
something big. But I think that would definitely help you to just even if you're having a rough day, to look at those journals that you've been journaling throughout the days and the weeks and the years, and have that as a keepsake of a memory of your dad. So I would encourage you. We're getting ready to wrap up the session, so I would encourage you to try that if you would like to. And on our next session, maybe we can talk about how that went for you.
Mm.
So I would like to thank you for coming to the session. I hope I have been helpful to you. And so, do you have any questions for me or any more comments that
Well,
you would like?
I think thank you for sharing that with me. I think that's a good idea, maybe to journal it more and try to put it on paper versus always just internalizing
Right.
it. Um, yeah, I think that will be good.
Sometimes.
So, do you think though that I should? What do you think I should do about with because my dad does have an estate and all, and we haven't been able to bring closure to that because I don't have a relationship really with his wife. How do you think I should handle that? Do you think that I should, although I'm journaling how I feel about my dad, do you think I should do something as far as um, talking to her about it?
I would definitely reach out to her. You said that you talked to her in the past and that didn't really work out so well. But I would kind of practice what you're going to say to her just so you have your thoughts together. And then I would just reach out to her, just simply, tell her how you feel and, what you're wanting and just see how that goes.
Yeah, because I really feel like, I know my dad was an adult, but I kind of sort of feel like she prevented him from being a dad to me. I mean, because I did see signs of my dad really trying
Right.
to have a relationship with me, but after he married her, I kind of saw where um, it, he was having to choose between, I guess, me and her.
Right.
So I don't know. It's my desire to really get move past it, and I'm not gonna get my dad back, obviously. One day I'll hope to see him again. Um, I did get a chance to tell him um, that I loved him before before he got deathly ill. The last time I saw him, even though I wasn't at his bedside when he passed. So I'm trying to find comfort in that.
Well, like I said, I would definitely reach out to his wife and just let her know how you feel and let her know that if that's something that you do desire to have a relationship because you weren't able to, bring closure. I would let her know that and then see if she's willing to maybe possibly have that relationship with you or at least it be pleasant when you do go back to Georgia. Just a pleasant relationship between you two. I would definitely express that to her.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I don't really go home as much anymore because when I'm there, it brings so many memories of my dad up. Even going down a certain street because my dad. The only reason why I will go to that side of town is because my dad lived there, and so I just don't enjoy going home like I used to after my dad's not there. But and then sometimes when I'm back in that environment, my feelings are a little bit stronger than they were, if I was here in North Carolina. It's like it takes me there.
Right.
And everything sometimes resurfaces, or I start saying, if this would have happened, perhaps with this, I wouldn't have had to deal with that. But I don't know. I think you said it earlier. Time heals things. So with with time,
Yeah, definitely
I'm
with
hoping.
time, it will get better. Just as with anything, time heals, like you said. And I really think that the journaling will help you.
Okay.
Just knowing that even though he has passed, you still kind of have that relationship with him. That journal means something to you. And I would really take that journal as a symbol, kind of, in a sense, of, this is me and my dad. And, see how that goes for you. And even if you do go back, even take that journal with you and, jot down, hey, Dad, I'm in town.
Right.
Just so you can, have that almost relationship in a sense. I would definitely encourage you to do that. And we can talk about how a little bit of your journaling went in the next session. But I do want to encourage you to do it just for a little while, just to try it. I think that would be really helpful. Do you have any more questions for me or anything?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming to our session. I hope I have been helpful, and I will see you next time, Ms. Pat.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you.